I thought I had a chance like everyone else. Not a special chance, but just like everyone else. Like my philosophy is that on the first day, on the field of 108 pilots, as we had in Benalla, we have 108 world champions, future world champions. But on the second day already, that number is reduced to quite a few.
With the wind on their wings, these gliders will soar for hundreds of kilometres. But they must wait for the sun to fuel rising columns of warm air and breathe life into these slender birds.
Still 15 knots.
Yes, that's happened every year since last month.
The day's competition hinges on the weather. Hours before the pilots are awake, meteorologist Mary Hewitt and her assistant Mike Hansey collate the data which will determine where and how the gliders will fly today.
Well, mainly they're concerned about lift, and that occurs with greater heating, and the strongest lift is with the greatest heating. So they're really concerned if there's cloud around, which is going to break up the lift. Strong winds, of course, will break up any thermals that do occur. Anything that happens in the lowest 10,000 feet, they're really interested in. They expect incredible precision, but we can manage to predict, say, lifts witin 2 or 3 knots if we have sufficient information at the right time. We have enough satellite photos to tell us how the cloud is moving and the speed of it. So mostly, if we have all that information in the morning, we can be fairly precise.
Good morning, 8 a.m. on your World Gliding Championship station. Welcome to Keith and I will be taking you through the next hour or so. FM Stereo 107.1, brought to you live from our Benalla Aerodrome. Days, Benalla Aerodrome is home for around 500 international gliding enthusiasts representing 29 countries. They're a dedicated band, wooed by the sleek beauty of the glider, the ecstasy of flight, and the music of wind dancing across the wings. But winning a championships is no picnic, and each day begins early.
This one first I will add. It's been about 7 years of preparation. In the last 2 years, we've had about 80 people working part-time. And the last 2 years also, 2 full-time people working on the championships. Been a lot of effort, tremendous. Most of us have given up our leave, and we're spending our time here for a month, organising the World Championships, and hopefully for the enjoyment of the competing pilots from the 29 nations around the world. We're all volunteers.
Colin McDonald's day begins at 7:45 with a coordination meeting. He, along with a couple of hundred volunteer workers, are staging the grandest scale championships in the 50-year history of international gliding.
Well, Wally Wallington, of course, was the chairman of the organising committee, and I've been his deputy now for some time. And together with the other directors, there's 8 of us, we've coordinated all of the efforts of the 80-odd people that have been involved in the preparation. We've had to change our mental attitude from a national competition, which this team has run before, but this time it's a full international team, the greater majority of people being from overseas, and they also have very competent crews and team managers. So the arrangements and the way in which we deal with the competing pilots changes slightly, and in that respect is somewhat easier on the organisation because you've got more competent people operating the gliders and the ground crews. I think they expect only one thing, that we produce results after we've produced a race.
As far as today is concerned, we're looking at about...
Designing a race, in gliding jargon called setting a task, is contingent upon the weather. As chief task setter, Tony Tabat is, if you like, head of the design team.
If we get good information, it means with just using facts and figures from the meteorology and applying speeds and numbers to it, we can set a task that will use any amount of the day right up to the whole day that you require, depending whether you're looking for a speed task or a distance task around a triangle.
The gliders are divided into 3 classes, depending primarily on their wingspan, and each class will cover a different triangular course.
It depends what you want to achieve. Whether you want to stretch the pilots out for the whole day, as to give them an absolute maximum use of the day, or whether you want to give them a smaller task which then more concentrates on speed. So you just apply mathematical formulas to the amount of weather, the type of weather forecast, and that gives you a formula to work to.
Most pilots will be flying over unfamiliar territory, stretching from Lake Eildon in the south, east along the Great Dividing Range, north beyond Forbes, and west to Mildura. So the task setters work around a given set of turning points. Each pilot has a composite set of photographs of these turning points to guide him.
A set point would be typically a silo within a town, or a major road intersection within a town, or something like that. Some positive identifiable point within an identifiable landmark, such as a town or a railway siding. And the pilot has to go around that turn point and photograph it from a given angle to prove that he's actually rounded the turn point. With his sealed camera, he photographs that particular point on the ground.
This is 3WGC FM stereo. Cameras will be mounted on the right-hand side, and the task is Elmore, Swan Hill, Deniliquin.
Immediately the task is declared, the press room swings into action with all the frenzy of a metropolitan daily newsroom. Bulletins to be printed, radio broadcasts to write, explanations of yesterday's mid-air collision adding to the workload. The deadline is 10 o'clock. By then, the 108 competing pilots, their crews, team managers, and the hundreds of workers will be demanding the information around which they'll arrange their day.
That general public weather forecasting is like a picnic compared with this, because everybody wants to pin you down on every little thing. You know, the height of the temperature inversion, where the temperature increases, they want that within 100 feet. You know, they want the strength of the lift within 1 knot. They want everything within a very small variation.
The hot favourite to take out the title in the 25-metre wingspan open class is Australian Ingo Renner of Tocumwal in southern New South Wales. A gliding veteran of 32 years and plotting for his 4th world title, Renner is something of a legend in the gliding fraternity.
I saw that they would like to beat me, and they thought I was the favourite, but I wasn't upset by that. I just fly for fun. I don't set out to win. That's not my ambition so much. I want to find out what the optimum performance is. and whether I achieve that optimum performance, because I can use that technique to fly for myself.
Flying at optimum performance, be it to win or not, depends in no small part on the pilot's knowledge of meteorology, calculating a start time which makes best use of the heat of the day.
I just work out the length of the task and how long it would take me to fly around the task. And then I would like to symmetrically arrange that flight around the time of 1600 hours, which is the peak of the day. You cannot always do that for various reasons. However, you set out and plan for a certain length of task and try to work out a starting time for yourself.
If pilot skill accounts for 50% of success and 30% is luck, then the rest is in the sailplane, and that's the responsibility of the crews.
I rely on them to look after the glider entirely. I never see the glider in the morning. I just prepare the flight and come to the glider, hop in and fly. I rely on my crew to get the glider ready.
Released off tow at 3,000 feet, presently at 3,300 in a 1 to 2 knot broken thermal.
This is the Nerve Centre. From here in the flight office, Robin Kirk and his team take control each day from the time the gliders are released at 2,000 feet.
All the competing aircraft we look after while they're competing until they get back of a night time. Those that don't get back, we've got to look for. We also look after any emergencies. If the task setters get it right and they make the day hard enough to be a good day, we can expect to find 1 or 2 or 3 land out most days. Most of them will get back.
Outside, pilots play the waiting game. Its moves are called dummy runs, their purpose to tease one's opponents out onto the task too soon. But each pilot has a plan for roughly the best time to start and how to fly the race. When the game's over, the real starts are made. Pilots photographing the start point with their time-coded cameras, and times are radioed through.
The flight office give us, the scorers, the start times by dropping them down the chute, and we immediately key them into the computer. and then we display them on the blackboard outside the scoring room. What happens is the crews transcribe the start times down and radio them to their pilots by the team frequencies, so that each pilot knows when the others have started, so that he can realise how much time he has to make up on the course and how hard he has to push the glider.
Task number 1, temp 19.2.
Alpha Sierra, copy.
It can be very crowded up there. Just imagine going on a cross-country course in the World Championships in a gaggle of 31 or 32 gliders. You cannot move very much because they wedge you in, and you just have to go around with the gaggle. In the gaggle, we soar up in a thermal, in a bubble of hot rising air, just like a flock of ibis. You might have seen a flock of ibis, up to 100, that go up in a gaggle in a thermal and climb up to high altitudes and then set off for a distance.
And so they fly across the country, hour upon hour, trading distance for height as they glide straight ahead, then circling to regain altitude, avoiding the downdrafts and tracking a course along the strongest updrafts, using puffs of cumulus cloud and soaring birds to point their way.
They show us many thermals, ibis, pelicans, hawks and eagles. They're all the soaring birds up there, so you're never lonely. Or it's hard to describe. You need hours and hours of it when you have experienced all the beauties and motions flying in relationship to each other between gliders. That is, you cannot describe that in a few words. It's just very beautiful. That's all I can say.
These are the Rolls-Royce of sailplanes, with price tags around the $100,000 mark. They've been built for the ultimate in performance, losing only 1 kilometre in height to cover 60 kilometres in distance, and tested to speeds of up to 300 kilometres an hour.
The human factor is the limit, and not the glider or the atmosphere, so far as we know now.
Gerhard Webel is both designer and test pilot. Ingo Renner is flying one of his designs in this competition, an ASW-22B.
The weather is solar powered, and so gliding is solar powered. A power source, which means the engine is always the same. We have to improve the vehicle, and that is what we did in the past. And as far as we know, we take advantage of latest aerodynamic knowledge as well as latest material knowledge. As a glider designer, being rather long in the business, I must confess that the glider itself is the smaller part of the success. It helps the pilot. The knowledge about meteorology and all the atmospheric phenomena and the many variables which are there cannot be computed, and there's certainly a little bit of a luck factor in our game, and that makes it interesting. Perhaps a little bit psychology is in that.
Back on ground, it's a long wait through the afternoon, keeping cool, keeping amused, and keeping track of the pilots hundreds of kilometres away.
Lima Bravo, 5K.
Late in the afternoon, attention shifts to the finish line. The airwaves are buzzing with pilots' voices as they pass the point only 5 kilometres from home.
Quebec Sierra, 5K.
Final glides can be quite long, as you can imagine. My longest final glide has been 180 kilometers, and from 180 kilometers you cannot see your aerodrome. You cannot see your destination.
Accuracy is critical to the last point. Poor judgment earlier in the day can see the gliders land out in a paddock in the middle of nowhere, facing a tiring wait for the crew to locate them by car. But an error now can lose the day and the title.
relax until the glider is safely on the ground on the aerodrome. It is a relief in one way. You have achieved your aim. You don't have to concentrate so hard anymore, because take a flight that has taken up to 8 hours, you have been concentrating every second for 8 hours, and of course it takes a lot out of you, and you have to give it all you can give it, but you will be pleased to have achieved a good job. You have done a good job.
Renner's job may be over for another day, but that of the scorers and verifiers has barely begun. As pilots arrive home, the film from their sealed cameras is removed to be developed and verified. With world titles at stake, an honest word is not enough. Turn-point photographs are checked against standard photos to ensure each pilot has actually completed the set task. Finish times filter through the flight office to the scorers, and new information is fed into the computers. As darkness falls across the aerodrome, scorers are calculating speed and lapse times and awarding points on the basis of the fastest times around the course. Pilots who don't make it home are awarded distance points. They work through the early hours of the morning, printing out fully checked and verified results. Running the World Gliding Championships is an almost 24-hour operation. And at the end of 12 exhausting days, Ingo Renner becomes the first man to take out 4 world titles. He has set another record in the history books of gliding.
I just try to do my job well. I try to fly to my